Jake Harrison sat in his small ship, watching the stars drift by slowly. He had been flying patrol missions for 3 years now, and nothing exciting ever happened. His job was to check empty space sectors near the Vega system and make sure no enemy ships were hiding there. Most days he just flew around for 8 hours and went back to base with nothing to report. Today felt different, though. His scanner picked up a weak signal coming from somewhere nearby. Jake frowned and checked his instruments twice to make sure he was reading them right. There was definitely something out there sending a distress call. He changed course and flew toward the signal. After 20 minutes, he saw a dark shape floating in space ahead of him. It was a ship, but not like any human ship he had ever seen. The hull was smooth and curved with strange markings on the sides. Parts of it looked badly damaged with holes burned through the metal. Jake had never seen an alien ship before, but he knew this had to be one. The distress signal was getting stronger as he got closer. Someone inside that ship needed help, and Jake could not just fly away and leave them to die. He brought his ship alongside the damaged vessel and used his scanner to check for life signs. There was one weak signal coming from inside. Jake put on his spacesuit and used the airlock to move from his ship to the alien one. The inside of the alien ship was dark and filled with smoke. Jake turned on his helmet lights and looked around. Everything was made from materials he did not recognize. The walls curved in odd ways, and there were no right angles anywhere. Broken glass and twisted metal covered the floor. Jake followed his scanner toward the life signal. He found a door that was half open and squeezed through it. Inside was what looked like a medical bay with strange equipment hanging from the ceiling. On a table in the center lay an unconscious alien. Jake had never seen anything like her before. She was tall and thin, with blue skin that seemed to glow faintly. Her hair was silver and fell past her shoulders. She wore clothes that looked expensive and had jewels sewn into the fabric. Most strange of all were the patterns on her skin that pulsed with soft light like a heartbeat. Blood covered her clothes and the table beneath her. Jake could see several deep wounds on her arms and chest. She was breathing, but very weakly. If he did not help her soon, she would die. Jake carried the alien woman back to his ship and placed her in his medical bay. The computer scanned her body and said her blood type was similar to human blood. That seemed impossible, but Jake had no time to wonder about it. The woman was dying and he had to act fast. He started giving her medicine to stop the bleeding and used his ship's medical tools to close her wounds. When she needed more blood, Jake gave her some of his own. The computer said it should work, even though she was an alien. For 3 days, Jake took care of the unconscious woman. He fed her liquid food through a tube and made sure her wounds stayed clean. He also worked on fixing her ship using parts from his own supplies. His ship's computer helped him figure out how the alien technology worked. On the 4th day, the woman opened her eyes. They were purple and larger than human eyes. She looked around with confusion until she saw Jake sitting beside her bed. When she tried to speak, Jake heard strange musical sounds that his computer slowly translated into words he could understand. "Where am I?" she asked in a voice like singing. "You are safe on my ship," Jake told her. "I found you hurt in your ship and brought you here to help you get better." The woman stared at him for a long time. Her skin patterns began to glow brighter and change colors. "You are human," she said. "Yes. My name is Jake Harrison. I am a pilot for the Earth Defense Fleet. I am Princess Lyra of the Zephyrian Empire," she said. "You saved my life." Jake felt shocked to learn he had rescued an alien princess. He had heard of the Zephyrian Empire before. They were powerful neighbors of humanity, but the two peoples did not talk much to each other. Princess Lyra told him that enemies had attacked her ship and tried to kill her. They wanted to stop her from reaching an important meeting with other royal families. She had been flying alone to keep the mission. "Secret when they found her. Why did you help me?" she asked. "Your people and mine are not friends." Jake shrugged. "You needed help. I could not just leave you to die." The princess stared at him again with those large purple eyes. Her skin patterns glowed even brighter. She reached out and touched his hand with her long fingers. Her skin felt warm and smooth. "You have a good heart," she said softly. Over the next 2 days, Jake and Princess Lyra talked while he finished fixing her ship. She told him about her world and her people. The Zephyrians lived much longer than humans and had built a great empire among the stars. They valued honor and kindness above all other things. Jake told her about Earth and his life as a pilot. He had grown up on a farm before joining the fleet to see the galaxy. Princess Lyra listened to every word and asked many questions about human culture. When her ship was ready, Princess Lyra prepared to leave. Before she went back to her own vessel, she gave Jake a small crystal pendant on a silver chain. "This is a token of my gratitude," she said. "Keep it close to your heart." Jake watched as her ship powered up and flew away towards Zephyrian space. He looked down at the crystal pendant in his hand. It was beautiful and seemed to glow with its own inner light. When Jake returned to base, he filed a simple report about helping a disabled alien vessel. He did not mention that the alien was a princess because he thought it might cause problems. His commander read the report and nodded approval. The next day, Jake received new orders. He was being transferred to a secret mission far from Earth. Within hours, he was on a transport ship heading for the edge of known space. He had no idea that his act of kindness had started something that would change both their worlds forever. As Jake's ship jumped to hyperspace, the crystal pendant around his neck pulsed with warm light. Far away in Zephyrian space, Princess Lyra touched a matching crystal and smiled. She would find her rescuer again no matter how long it took. Princess Lyra returned to her home world feeling like a different person. The royal palace on Veltarium stretched across miles of crystal spires and floating gardens, but she barely noticed its beauty. Her mind kept going back to the human pilot, who had saved her life. The Zephyrian doctors examined her carefully when she arrived. They were amazed that a human had been able to treat her injuries so well. They told her that his blood had mixed with hers and created a bond that had never happened between different species before. "Your Highness," said the chief medical officer, "this human's actions have triggered something in your biology. The life debt has awakened your Keth Mirren response." Lyra knew what that meant. Keth Mirren was the deepest connection two Zephyrians could share. It happened when one person saved another's life in a moment of pure selflessness. The saved person would feel an unbreakable bond with their rescuer that went beyond gratitude or friendship. But Keth Mirren had never happened between a Zephyrian and an alien before. The doctors did not know what this might mean for her future. Lyra could not stop thinking about Jake Harrison. She remembered his kind brown eyes and gentle hands as he cared for her wounds. She remembered how he had given his own blood to save her without asking for anything in return. Most of all, she remembered the way he had looked at her, not as an alien or a princess, but simply as someone who needed help. The princess began using her royal resources to learn everything she could about the human who had rescued her. She sent her best spies and information gatherers to human space with orders to find out about Jake Harrison's life. They brought back detailed reports about his past. Jake had grown up on a farming colony called New Montana, where his family raised crops to feed other worlds. He was the youngest of 4 children and had always been known for helping others. His teachers said he was smart but never boastful. His friends said he would give away his last meal to help someone in need. Jake had joined the Earth Defense Fleet at age 20 and quickly earned respect from his fellow pilots. He had saved 3 different ships during his service and had never broken a rule or disobeyed an order. His commanders wrote that he was the kind of man they wanted leading missions because others trusted him completely. The more Lyra learned about Jake, the deeper her feelings grew. This was not just Keth Mirren anymore. She was falling in love with a human she barely knew but whose character shone through every story about his life. Lyra's agents followed Jake's trail through human space but kept running into dead ends. His last known location was the patrol sector where he had found her, but after that his records were classified. The Earth Defense Fleet had moved him somewhere secret and erased all traces of where he had gone. Months passed with no success. Lyra grew frustrated and began taking bigger risks to find information. She had her agents break into human computer systems and steal classified files. She offered huge rewards to anyone who could tell her where Jake Harrison was stationed. Finally, her activities caught the attention of Earth's diplomatic corps. Admiral Patricia Vance was a smart woman who had spent decades managing relations between humanity and alien species. She noticed the unusual interest that Zephyrian agents were showing in one particular human pilot. Admiral Vance did some investigation of her own and quickly figured out what had happened. She read Jake's patrol report from the day he had helped the disabled alien vessel. She also reviewed his medical records and saw that he had given blood to an unknown patient around the same time. When Princess Lyra finally requested an official meeting to discuss matters of mutual importance, Admiral Vance was ready for her. The meeting took place on a neutral space station halfway between Earth and Zephyrian territory. Lyra arrived with a small fleet of ships and dressed in her most impressive royal robes. Her skin patterns glowed with complex designs that showed her high rank and emotional state. Admiral Vance met her with full diplomatic honors, but also with a squadron of human warships nearby. "Your Highness," Admiral Vance said as they sat down to negotiate, "I believe you are looking for one of our pilots." Lyra tried to hide her excitement, but her skin patterns gave her away by pulsing brighter. "I wish to locate the human who assisted me during a recent emergency. I have a debt of gratitude to repay." Admiral Vance studied the alien princess carefully. She could see that this was about much more than gratitude. The way Lyra's skin glowed when she talked about Jake told the whole story. "Lieutenant Commander Harrison performed his duties exactly as trained," the Admiral said. "He helped someone in distress and filed an appropriate report. He asked for no reward and expected none." "Nevertheless, I must find him," Lyra said. Her voice stayed calm, but her hands gripped the arms of her chair tightly. "In my culture, a life debt cannot be ignored. I will not rest until I have properly thanked him." Admiral Vance made her decision. She had read Jake's complete file and knew he was exactly the kind of man who would help an alien princess without thought of reward. She also knew that the Zephyrian Empire could be either humanity's greatest ally or most dangerous enemy. "Lieutenant Commander Harrison is currently stationed at Deep Space Monitoring Station 7, she said finally. "It is located beyond the rim of charted space. He is there on a classified mission that cannot be interrupted." Lyra's skin patterns exploded with brilliant light. I request permission to visit this station and speak with him. That would require special diplomatic clearance, Admiral Vance replied. Such clearance could take months to arrange through proper channels. Then I will wait, Lyra said without hesitation. Admiral Vance smiled. She had expected this response. However, if you were to travel there as my personal guest on a diplomatic mission, I could arrange for you to visit within the week. Lyra stood up so quickly that her chair fell over. When do we leave? 3 days later, Princess Lyra sat in her private ship watching hyperspace flow past the windows. Her heart raced with anticipation at the thought of seeing Jake again. She touched the crystal pendant at her throat that matched the one she had given him. Soon she would find the human who had claimed her heart with a simple act of kindness. She had no intention of just thanking him and walking away. Jake Harrison belonged to her now, whether he knew it or not. The Kethmiran bond meant he was hers to protect and cherish for the rest of their lives. All she had to do was convince him to accept what destiny had already decided. Jake Harrison was drinking coffee and reading sensor reports when the alarms started blaring throughout Deep Space Monitoring Station 7. He looked up from his desk to see his fellow officers running toward the command center with worried expressions on their faces. "What's happening?" Jake asked Lieutenant Commander Amy Stone as she hurried past. "Multiple alien ships just dropped out of hyperspace," she replied without stopping. "Big ones, too. The captain wants everyone at battle stations." Jake followed her to the command center where Captain Frank Morris was staring at the main display screen with his mouth hanging open. On the screen was the largest alien ship Jake had ever seen. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time, with curved hull plating that seemed to shift colors in the starlight. "Sir?" called out Ensign Bobby Clark from the communication station. "We're receiving a message from the lead ship. They're requesting permission to dock." "Are they armed?" Captain Morris asked. "Yes, sir. Very heavily armed. But their weapons are powered down, and they're flying in a peaceful formation." Captain Morris looked around the command center at his small crew of 12 officers. Deep Space Station 7 was not built for fighting. It was just a listening post designed to watch for threats from unexplored space. "Put their message on screen," he ordered. The display changed to show the interior of the alien ship's bridge. Jake felt his heart stop when he saw who was standing in the center of the screen. Princess Lyra looked even more beautiful than he remembered. She wore elegant robes that sparkled with embedded jewels, and her silver hair was arranged in an elaborate style that showed off her royal status. "Greetings to the humans of Monitoring Station 7, she said in perfect English. "I am Princess Lyra Veltarim of the Zephyrian Empire. I come in peace seeking an audience with Lieutenant Commander Jake Harrison." Every person in the command center turned to stare at Jake. He felt his face turn red as he tried to figure out what to say. "How do you know Princess Lyra?" Captain Morris asked quietly. "I helped her once when her ship was damaged," Jake replied. "I didn't know she was a princess at the time." Captain Morris looked back at the screen where Princess Lyra was waiting patiently for an answer. Her large purple eyes seemed to be looking directly at Jake even through the video connection. "Your Highness?" Captain Morris said, "Lieutenant Commander, Harrison is here and available to speak with you. However, our station is not equipped to receive ships of your size." "That will not be necessary," Princess Lyra replied. "I request permission to come aboard your station with a small escort. I have diplomatic clearance from Admiral Patricia Vance of your Earth Defense Command." 20 minutes later, Jake stood in the station's small docking bay watching a sleek alien shuttle land gracefully on the deck. His hands were sweating and his heart was beating so fast he thought everyone could hear it. He had no idea why Princess Lyra had traveled so far to find him. The shuttle door opened, and Princess Lyra stepped out, followed by 4 tall alien guards wearing ceremonial armor. She looked around the simple human docking bay with interest. Before, her eyes found Jake standing near the back of the group. Their eyes met across the room, and Jake felt something electric pass between them. Princess Lyra's skin patterns began to glow brighter and pulse in complex rhythms. She walked toward him, with graceful steps that seemed to make her float across the floor. "Jake Harrison," she said when she stopped in front of him. Her voice was just as musical as he remembered. "Your Highness," Jake replied with a bow. "I'm honored by your visit, but I don't understand why you came all this way." Princess Lyra smiled and reached out to touch the crystal pendant hanging around his neck. Jake had worn it every day since she gave it to him. "You kept it close to your heart as I asked," she said softly. "Yes, ma'am. It's beautiful." Princess Lyra's skin patterns flared even brighter. She turned to address Captain Morris and the other humans who were watching this exchange with fascination. "Captain, I must speak with Jake Harrison about a matter of great importance to both our peoples. This conversation concerns ancient laws and customs that govern my species." Captain Morris nodded. "Of course, Your Highness. You may use my office for privacy." "That will not be necessary," Princess Lyra said. "What I have to say should be witnessed by others so there can be no misunderstanding later." She turned back to Jake, and her expression became very serious. When she spoke, her voice carried the authority of someone who had been giving commands her entire life. "Jake Harrison, by your selfless act of saving my life, you have triggered the Keth-Mirren bond between us. This is the deepest connection possible between two beings in Zephyrian culture. The bond means that you now belong to me completely, and I belong to you." Jake stared at her in shock. "I belong to you? What does that mean exactly?" "It means you are mine to protect and cherish for as long as we both live," Princess Lyra replied. "In human terms, you might call it marriage, but Keth-Mirren goes much deeper than that. Our souls are connected now." "But I barely know you," Jake protested. "We only spent a few days together." Princess Lyra stepped closer to him until she was standing, close enough that he could smell her exotic perfume. Her skin patterns pulsed in hypnotic waves of color. "That does not matter," she said firmly. "The bond has been formed by your noble actions. You cannot break it any more than you can stop your heart from beating." Jake felt confused and overwhelmed. "Your Highness, I appreciate everything you're saying, but I'm a human, not a Zephyrian. These bonds don't apply to me." Princess Lyra reached up and placed her hand on his chest over his heart. Her touch sent warm tingles through his entire body. "The doctors on my world have studied your blood that still flows in my veins," she said. "The bond has affected you too. Can you honestly say you have not thought about me every day since we parted?" Jake opened his mouth to deny it, but stopped. She was right. He had thought about her constantly for months. He had dreamed about her. Purple eyes and musical voice. He had wondered if he would ever see her again. "Even if that's true," he said, "I have duties here. I can't just leave my post." Princess Lyra smiled. "I have already arranged for your transfer with Admiral Vance. You are to come with me to Zephyrian space as a cultural exchange officer." Captain Morris spoke up from behind them. "Jake, I just received confirmation of your new orders. You're being reassigned immediately." Jake felt like his world was spinning out of control. In the space of 1 hour, his entire life had been turned upside down by an alien princess who claimed to own his soul. "What if I refuse to go?" he asked. Princess Lyra's smile faded and her skin patterns shifted to darker colors. "Then you would condemn both of us to a life of suffering. The Kethmaran bond cannot be denied, Jake. I have crossed the galaxy to claim what is mine. I will not leave without you." Jake looked around at his fellow officers who were watching this drama unfold with wide eyes. He thought about his quiet life on the monitoring station and compared it to the unknown future that Princess Lyra was offering him. "If I come with you, what happens then?" "Then I will show you what it means to be loved by a Zephyrian princess," she replied. Her skin patterns brightened again, and her smile returned. "I will give you a life beyond anything you have ever imagined." Jake took a deep breath and made his decision. "I guess I don't have much choice, do I?" "No," Princess Lyra said happily. "You do not." Jake's new life aboard Princess Lyra's ship was unlike anything he had ever experienced. The Starfire Empress was massive and beautiful, with corridors that curved like flowing water and walls that seemed to be made of living crystal. Everything around him hummed with alien technology that felt more like magic than science. His quarters were larger than his entire apartment back on Earth. The bedroom had a bed big enough for 4 people covered in silk sheets that changed color with his mood. The bathroom had a shower that used warm mist instead of water, and somehow left him feeling cleaner than he had ever been before. But the most amazing thing was the wardrobe full of clothes that had been made just for him. Princess Lyra had somehow gotten his exact measurements and had dozens of outfits created in styles that mixed human and Zephyrian fashion. The fabrics felt incredible against his skin and seemed to regulate his body temperature automatically. Jake quickly learned that he was not exactly a prisoner, but he was not free either. 2 Zephyrian guards followed him everywhere he went on the ship. They were polite and friendly, but they made it clear that he was not allowed to leave without Princess Lyra's permission. Princess Lyra herself spent hours with him every day. She would arrive at his quarters each morning dressed in flowing robes that made her look like a goddess. Her skin patterns would glow brightly whenever she saw him, and her large purple eyes would light up with happiness. "Good morning, my beloved," she would say in her musical voice. "I have planned wonderful things for us to do today." She took him on tours of her ship, showing him gardens that grew inside crystal domes and libraries filled with books written in languages he could not read. She introduced him to her crew, who all treated him with the respect they would show to royalty. She shared meals with him in dining rooms, with tables made from single pieces of rare stone. The food was unlike anything Jake had ever tasted. Princess Lyra explained that Zephyrian cuisine focused on bringing out the natural flavors of ingredients rather than covering them up with spices. Every meal was a work of art that looked too beautiful to eat. During their conversations, Princess Lyra told him about her world and her people. The Zephyrians had built their empire over thousands of years by forming alliances rather than conquering enemies. They valued honor above wealth and kindness above power. Their society was ruled by families who had proven themselves through generations of wise leadership. "My father has been emperor for 300 years, she explained as they walked through a garden filled with flowers that glowed like stars. He has brought peace to 50 different worlds and united dozens of alien species under our protection." Jake was amazed to learn that Princess Lyra was over 200 years old, even though she looked like a young woman by human standards. Zephyrians lived for thousands of years and aged very slowly. She was still considered young by her people's standards. "What about you?" she asked as they sat by a fountain that played music instead of just making water sounds. Tell me about your family and your dreams. Jake found himself talking about things he had never shared with anyone before. He told her about growing up on his family's farm and how he used to lie in the fields at night looking up at the stars. He talked about joining the fleet because he wanted to explore the galaxy and maybe find something important out there among the stars. And did you find what you were looking for? Princess Lyra asked. Jake looked at her sitting beside him with starlight reflecting off her silver hair and her skin patterns pulsing gently in the darkness. I think maybe I did. Princess Lyra's skin flared brighter, and she reached over to take his hand. Her touch sent warm electricity up his arm and made his heart beat faster. As the days passed, Jake found himself enjoying Princess Lyra's company more and more. She was intelligent and funny, with a laugh that sounded like silver bells ringing. She knew things about human culture that surprised him and asked thoughtful questions about his life and beliefs. She also showed him a possessive side that both thrilled and worried him. She did not like it when he talked to other members of her crew, especially the females. Her skin patterns would shift to darker colors, and her voice would become colder until he focused his attention back on her. "You are mine, Jake Harrison," she told him one evening as they stood on an observation deck watching stars stream past. "I do not share what belongs to me." "I'm not a possession," Jake replied. "I'm a person with my own thoughts and feelings, Princess." Lyra turned to face him, and her eyes seemed to glow in the starlight. "In human culture, perhaps, but you are bound to me by laws older than your entire species. The Kethmiran bond makes us one being in two bodies." She stepped closer to him and placed her hands on his chest. Jake could feel the warmth of her skin through his shirt. "Can you honestly say you do not feel it?" she asked softly. "The connection between us that grows stronger every day, the way your heart races when I enter a room, the way you dream about me at night." Jake could not deny any of it. He did dream about her every night. He did feel his pulse quicken whenever she appeared. Most confusing of all, he was beginning to enjoy the way she claimed ownership of him, even though it went against everything he had been taught about relationships. "What happens when we reach your world?" he asked. Princess Lyra smiled, and her skin patterns shifted to soft golden colors. "Then I will present you to my father, the Emperor, and ask for his blessing on our union." "Union? You mean marriage?" "Something much deeper than marriage," she replied. "A bond that will tie our souls together for all eternity." Jake felt his breath catch in his throat. "What if I'm not ready for something that permanent?" Princess Lyra's expression became serious. "Then I will wait and court you according to both human and Zephyrian customs until you are ready. I have already waited months to find you. I can wait longer if necessary." She reached up and traced the line of his jaw with one finger. Her touch made his skin tingle with pleasant sensations. "But know this, my beloved," she continued. "I will never give up on claiming your heart completely. You saved my life, and in doing so, you became mine. I intend to spend every day proving that you belong with me." Jake looked into her purple eyes and saw love there that was deeper than anything he had ever imagined. It was overwhelming and frightening and wonderful all at the same time. "I'm scared," he admitted. Princess Lyra's smile returned, and she pressed her forehead against his. "So am I," she whispered. "Love is always frightening when it is real." As their ship continued toward the Zephyrian homeworld, Jake found his resistance weakening day by day. Princess Lyra's love was like a warm tide that was slowly surrounding him and lifting him up. He was beginning to understand that fighting it might be impossible, and maybe he did not want to fight it anymore. The Zephyrian homeworld of Veltarim appeared on the ship's viewing screen like a jewel floating in space. Jake pressed his face against the window and stared in wonder at the most beautiful planet he had ever seen. Cities of crystal and light, stretched across continents connected by bridges that seemed to be made of pure energy. "Welcome to my home," Princess Lyra said as she came to stand beside him. Her skin patterns were glowing brighter than he had ever seen them, pulsing with excitement and pride. "It's incredible," Jake whispered. "I never imagined anything could be so beautiful." "Wait until you see the capital city," she replied. "The royal palace has been built over thousands of years by the greatest artists in the galaxy." As their ship descended through the atmosphere, Jake saw floating platforms covered with gardens and waterfalls that flowed upward instead of down. Flying vehicles moved between the structures in graceful patterns that looked like a dance. The Zephyrian people on the streets below stopped to look up at Princess Lyra's ship, and their skin patterns flashed in what Jake now knew was a greeting. The royal palace was beyond anything Jake could have imagined. Towers of living crystal rose into the clouds, connected by bridges of solidified light. Gardens floated in the air around the structures, filled with plants that glowed with their own inner fire. Music seemed to come from the very walls, creating melodies that changed as they walked through different areas. Princess Lyra led Jake through corridors lined with artwork that moved and changed as they watched. She pointed out paintings that told the history of her people and sculptures that seemed to be alive with dancing figures frozen in time. "My father will want to meet you immediately," she said, as they approached a massive door covered in symbols that hurt Jake's eyes to look at directly. "Remember that he is not just my father, but the Emperor of 50 worlds. Show him the respect you would show any great leader." Jake nodded nervously. He was about to meet one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy, and he had no idea what to expect. The door opened without anyone touching it, and they entered a throne room that stretched as far as Jake could see. The ceiling was so high, it disappeared into shadows, and the walls were covered with banners from hundreds of different worlds. At the far end of the room sat a figure on a throne made from what looked like crystallized starlight. Emperor Veltarim the Magnificent was tall, even by Zephyrian standards, with skin that shifted through every color Jake had ever seen. His hair was pure white and seemed to move in a wind that Jake could not feel. When he spoke, his voice filled the entire room without echo. "So this is the human who saved my daughter's life," the Emperor said as Jake and Princess Lyra approached the throne. "Come closer, Jake Harrison. Let me look at the man who has captured my daughter's heart." Jake walked forward, trying not to show how nervous he was. When he reached the base of the throne, he bowed as deeply as he could. "Your Imperial Majesty," he said, "I am honored to meet you." The Emperor studied Jake for a long moment with eyes that seemed to see right through him. Finally, he smiled, and Jake felt some of his fear fade away. "My daughter has told me much about you," the Emperor said. "She speaks of your courage and kindness. She also tells me that you are confused about the bond between you." "Yes, sir," Jake replied honestly. "I don't fully understand what has happened to us. The Kethamiran bond is sacred among my people," the Emperor explained. "It cannot be forced or faked. It only occurs when one being saves another through pure, selfless love. The fact that it has happened between species for the first time in our history tells me that you are a very special human." Jake felt Princess Lyra move closer to him. Her hand found his and squeezed gently. However, the Emperor continued, I also understand human customs. Your people value choice above duty. So I must ask you directly, Jake Harrison, do you accept the bond my daughter offers you? Jake looked at Princess Lyra standing beside him. Her purple eyes were filled with hope and fear in equal measure. Her skin patterns had dimmed to barely visible flickering as she waited for his answer. He thought about everything that had happened since the day he found her broken ship floating in space. He thought about the months she had spent searching for him, and the weeks they had traveled together. Most of all, he thought about how empty his life had felt before she entered it. Your Majesty, Jake said, I love your daughter more than I thought. It was possible to love anyone. If she will have me, I would be honored to accept the bond she offers. Princess Lyra's skin patterns exploded with brilliant light that filled the entire throne room. She threw her arms around Jake and kissed him, as tears of joy streamed down her face. The Emperor stood up from his throne, and Jake saw that he was smiling broadly. Then let me share some news that will make this moment even more special. He gestured, and servants brought forward a crown made of the same crystallized starlight as his throne. My daughter has done something unprecedented in our history. She has renounced her position in the line of succession to be with you. Jake stared in shock. She gave up being Empress? She did, the Emperor confirmed. But I have decided that love like yours deserves to be rewarded. I am creating a new territory that will serve as a bridge between human and Zephyrian space. You and Lyra will rule it together as equals. Princess Lyra looked as surprised as Jake felt. Father, what are you saying? I am saying that Jake Harrison will be crowned King of the Borderlands with you as his queen. Together you will